Now we'll move on to the session which covers the two distinctive projects. One is the Siddhi and one is the Sparsh. Piyush and Satpreet will sort of tell you about the story on Siddhi, the super app that Amitabh talked about, and then Sparsh, the sort of customer obsession journey. Please, Piyush, come. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. So Samir talked a lot about what we're doing differently and path breaking in terms of engaging with customers from a D2C standpoint. And as we know, a large part of our business today, and we expect going forward, will also come from our colleagues engaging with customers. And hence, a clear differentiator for us is to enable our colleagues to provide an exceptional experience to customers when they are engaging with them. And that is where Siddhi comes in. Now, I would invite you to imagine for a second, if you were a relationship manager with Axis. You get up in the morning, you have a pre-planned set of calendar interactions already built into your calendar, knowing which customers to call today. Right? For each customer call, you go to Customer 360, it tells you 3 or 4 talking points that are relevant to that particular customer for that conversation that you have. In the conversation itself, the app allows you to execute app native journeys while in conversation with the customer. So you fulfill instantly. Towards the end of the day, you will have nudges coming in. In fact, throughout the day, these are live event-based nudges. They'll tell you, okay, there's a large credit that has come to the customer's account or a debit that has happened and so on and so forth that you'll be able to act on. You'll provide nudges based on your performance. You may be doing really well on some KRAs, you may be falling behind in some KRAs. You'll get a nudge to say, look, you're falling a little bit behind here. We would like you to go and do this training. A nudge will go to the supervisor, and the supervisor will be invited to do a coaching session with that person, do a joint call with that person, and that will uplift performance. So imagine all of this is already live, barring a couple of items. Siddhi, this word may not be familiar to all of us. So just to recap, what it means is a complete understanding, enlightenment. It also means a very powerful weapon that Siddhas present. So we believe that Siddhi as an app meets and should meet both of those objectives. It should create a sense of complete empowerment in our colleagues and should make them feel like they can conquer the world with it. So it's a coach that allows our colleagues to engage seamlessly with customers as well as internally. We have built all kinds of internal journeys on Siddhi as well. They get access in the palm of their hand. And I'll talk about some of the characteristics of Siddhi a little bit later. Of course, Axis customers benefit because they have far more meaningful conversations with customers rather than transactional conversations. And as a bank, as we move all the transactional interactions to the digital platform, we expect our colleagues to change their role a little bit and start to talk about customer needs and have more deeper, insightful conversations. I will show you a short video just to give you a sense of what Siddhi is all about.
Welcome to Siddhi, an app that's built on a customer-first approach. Siddhi brings all the information we need at our fingertips to attain customer delight. By integrating over 35 back-end systems to bring cohesive, intelligent insights based on analytical findings. Actionable insights to address customer needs on the go and build strong customer relationships. It allows colleagues to view KRAs and means to achieve targets and earn incentives, and improve customer experience by having contextualized conversations with them. Thanks to the comprehensive customer 360-degree view feature that gives colleagues all the necessary information at their fingertips. The teams can now prepare, pre-plan and execute their operating rhythm on Siddhi and establish a deeper connection with their customers. Execute end-to-end product journeys on Siddhi in less than a minute. Create and manage leads in 3 clicks. Assist customers with tailor-made solutions on the go. Service customers instantly. review performance, proactively engage with customers through smart nudges, leading to client delight. And that's not all. Supervisors can now manage their teams effectively by monitoring their performance and guiding them to serve customers better. Siddhi is now becoming a way of life and is gradually being scaled up across Axis Bank.
So what is in Siddhi? This is just a recap or a high-level overview of the kind of capabilities that have been built in. All capabilities relevant to customers, sales journeys, servicing journeys, so on and so forth. That's one set of capabilities. Second, managing the business itself, right? Portfolio insights, leads, so on and so forth, the rhythms. Performance itself, each KPI, incentive calculators, so on and so forth. Managing the team, this is for supervisors, branch managers, and so on and so forth. They can see everything related to every single individual in their team. And they also get nudges around where they should intervene and provide coaching and insights. And everything to do internally within the office, right? Internal collaboration and so on and so forth. So these are the 5 kind of sets of capabilities we are building on Siddhi. Technology, I think Avinash has covered and Balaji has covered a lot of this, so I will not spend too much time on it, but suffice to say, Axis is on the move. Modern technical architecture, all the buzzwords you can think of, cloud native, microservices based, API driven, all of that is kind of founds the foundation of Siddhi, which is why it took a bit of time for us to even make this live. Because the entire bank has to be on the move, all the systems have to get integrated, and you can appreciate the complexity involved there. 35 systems are already integrated, and as we kind of roll this out and subsequent MVPs get added, this number is going to go up. Personalization, again, Balaji has spoken a little bit about this. We have nudges which are kind of core to personalizing the experience for colleagues. We all know what nudges are. We have a library of nudges that are being built. These nudges get prioritized and then get surfaced through Siddhi to colleagues. Over a period of time, this nudge library is going to get richer and far more customized. What happens today, just to give you a sense, an event occurs, a nudge gets created and prioritized, gets surfaced through Siddhi to the colleague. They can see the nudge. They act on the nudge. They close the nudge. We capture the feedback from the nudge to say whether the nudge was successful or not, and even whether the RM acted on the nudge or not. That goes back into the prioritization logic. Now, our end state here is that we want all of this to happen automatically through a machine learning engine, which says, okay, for Amitabh Chaudhary, he did not act on nudges 1 and 2, but acted on 3 and 4. So next time onwards, 1 and 2 will be dropped from the nudge library in terms of prioritization for Amitabh Chaudhary, and 5 and 6 will be picked up. And that's how the customization and personalization will happen for every single individual out there. A couple of examples of nudges. As I said, customer has received a large credit. What is the customer going to do with that money? So there's an option to have a broad-based conversation with the customer about their needs, potentially, for example, culminating in opening a term deposit. We have seen 100% higher conversion on a simple nudge like this. We are building more complex ones. Again, the example of KRA. I might be low on a KRA. I will get a specific nudge to do a particular learning module, which will uplift my capability set. It will also send a nudge to the supervisors that we do some joint calling and do some coaching. And we will track the success of this nudge through the uplift in the KRA performance post-intervention. Where are we in the broader journey? MVP 1 is live. This is all of our premium banking RMs. There's about 3,000 colleagues covered across the supervisory chain. I'll come to the impact numbers in a bit. MVP 2 is our branch banking colleagues, about 25,000 colleagues. MVP 2 is kind of already being developed as we speak, being coded as we speak. MVP 3 is all of our retail assets colleagues in the lending space. There's about 17,000 colleagues there, possibly more. MVP 4, which is being designed as we speak, all of our wholesale banking RMs. The intent here, we said, is to have every single colleague, frontline, as service, backend to be enabled on Siddhi in the end state. Now, while we are building this, one of the questions is how difficult or easy is it going to be to do something like this? Now, we've heard of many such apps like Vimo and so on and so forth. Those are all kind of sales app in some sense. Siddhi itself, in its end state and its fully functioning form, is going to be very difficult to replicate. People can do it, but it will require a long time and a lot of investment to get there and execution focus. It's taken us about 18 months to launch MVP1 because we did a lot of the foundational work that Avinash and Balaji talked about earlier as part of that, and now our intent is to have a new MVP rolled out every 9 months. We'll probably have 2 tracks, so we'll probably roll out 2 MVPs every 9 months. A lot of functions had to come together to make this a reality from within the bank. Obviously IT, BIU, different product teams, different channel teams, all of our control functions, and so on and so forth. We estimate roughly 100 man-years of effort has gone into making MVP1 live. It's a lot of investment. MVP-led approach, I've spoken about that a bit. Technical complexity, spoken about that earlier, as well as the personalization piece. So we feel this is going to create a significant competitive advantage for Axis in the marketplace. Some of the early impact numbers, to give you a sense, we have only gone live with the entire 3,000 RM cohort about 6 to 8 weeks ago. Before that, we were live with about 500 RMs for a period of 3 months. So this is based on that data. We found 15 to 20% increase in leads being generated. We found 35% increase in leads being converted. We saw 35% increase in term deposit conversions and 20% increase in mutual fund conversions. To give you a sense of the quantum of scale, I saw this data yesterday. Based on 3 weeks of November data, we are now running at roughly 10,000 crore of TD bookings annual run rate. This is at what we feel is about 30% adoption, should go up 2 to 3 times, even with this cohort. And then you can imagine what will happen when the branch banking colleagues jump onto this bandwagon and where it can take us. Got a couple of testimonials here. There was a colleague who was trying to get time with a particularly affluent customer in Juhu for months, was never getting was unable to get a time. Suddenly the customer called one day, said, "Why don't you come and meet me? I've got time in 2 hours for about 15, 20 minutes. So obviously they immediately got a cab, went to the customer, had nothing available apart from Siddhi. So they were able to do all the research on the customer on the app itself while going to the meeting. In the meeting, the customer said, "Okay, the first thing you need to tell me is what's my balance and what's in my account. Then we can have a conversation." So Siddhi allowed them to actually generate the statement, send it to the customer right away. They poured over the statements together, and immediately, towards the end of the conversation, we had some pretty big wins and were able to deepen the relationship with that customer. So a real life example of a customer here of a colleague here in Bombay. There's, we collect customer testimonials, especially our NRI customers have been particularly happy because, with Siddhi, there is no kind of official hours that they have to kind of adhere to. This is the testimonial from a customer in Brazil. As you can imagine, their work days are, when we sleep, right? And they were really happy there. There was an urgent need they had, and the RM was kind of alert and proactive enough to actually meet that need quite late hours in India. So we measure both customer as well as kind of colleague experience in Siddhi. Now, just to recap then, end state vision is to have every single colleague enabled for every single journey, internal or external, in a very personalized, customized, segment of one manner on their handheld device, mobile, 24/7. Now, as I said, when you think about the TD example, you can imagine the kind of multiplicative effect it can have on the bank's future and the performance. Stop here. Hand over to my colleague, Satpreet, for Sparsh. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah, I'm audible. Hi. Good morning, everybody. I'm Satpreet. I lead Sparsh, our customer obsession program at Axis. It's been a year since we began this, and Amitabh has already spoken about why we chose Sparsh, but let me just highlight a couple of points as to how and why should something that is about delivering customer delight consistently be an area of distinctiveness, and an area of strategic priority. So banks across the globe understand that customer delight is key to becoming successful, but data has proven and again that it's only a handful of organizations and banks that actually make it a strategic priority. And why that happens is because it's something that is very tough to do consistently across all customer experiences. And hence, the more the tough it is to do, a larger, a distinctive area it can become for an organization. And hence, the choice of going for a program like Sparsh. Consumers are also changing in the way they interact with organizations. All of you as well are consumers. You go for convenience more than just the brick and mortar, the consistency of experience. And hence, it will matter if an organization is able to do this consistently. And lastly, it's not just the customer metrics that will move, but this will have an impact on financial metrics, on shareholder metrics, on any metric that a bank wants to create success in. Data has shown it. Amitabh again spoke about it, so I'll not speak too much about it. But customers who have positive experiences all the time consistently end up recommending more, end up buying more. And hence, a combination of all this led us to believe that this is and needs to be a strategic priority for an organization such as ours. As we began this journey, though, we wanted to set it right. And hence, there is an initial investment at the very beginning itself to go and understand what it means to be successful in a program like this, right? And hence, we partnered with McKinsey. We went about actually going through a journey itself to define how Sparsh will be set up in the organization. So whether it was listening to voice of customer, thousands of them, understanding how global best players are doing it, listening to colleagues internally who face customers every day, whatever Balaji just spoke about in terms of knowing the insights of what consumers are doing day in, day out, preferring day in, day out. And lastly, the top team itself coming together, doing strong brainstorming sessions. We did a 2-day brainstorming thinking session with Disney Institute US. And a combination of all this was the starting point of setting up Sparsh in the organization. We also invested time in understanding global best-in-class in customer experience. There are team examples here, maybe a few of them that I would just highlight. It is a multi-year journey. We learned that it is going to be maybe, if not a decade, short of it, to actually become world-class in the area of customer experience. DBS has shown it, how they move from being the lowest to the best globally. We also learned that it is about measurements. It's about putting the right measurements in place across the org from top to bottom. TD Bank has shown it by having one index that measured all employees to understand whether customer experiences are well or not. We also understood that the heart of it is actually about a cultural transformation. It's about colleagues believing it and living it every day. CBA has shown it in Australia by actually making it a priority and running a customer obsession program internally. So what I wanted to convey is that there have been multiple learnings, and it's not one thing that needs to happen, it's multiple things that need to come together. And with all of this, we created what is now our own language, our own program of having a journey towards becoming the most customer-obsessed organization, the most customer-obsessed bank. At the heart of it is our credo of customer delight. You heard Samir, Avinash, Balaji, Piyush just talk about multiple ways. We are already working towards delivering customer delight, but we want to accelerate it. We want to make it a bank-wide phenomenon over the years to come. And we believe there are 4 strong pillars that we need to deliver on to make that happen. Ensure journeys are seamless, enough examples on digital that we saw today. Ensure that there are 85,000 plus delight advocates, all our colleagues saying that, yes, I'll be customer obsessed, I will deliver the best experience. Putting in the right measurements, we shifted to NPS, the global benchmark of measuring customer experience, the Net Promoter Score. That shift happened just the Q1 of this financial year. And at the same time, building institutional capabilities, again, a glimpse of what you've seen today before before I came on and many colleagues of mine spoke. So it's a combination of all this that we believe over years is going to lead us closer to our aspiration as we go ahead. Once again, having learned all this, it was important to set it up correct for sustenance. And with that objective, we have a central Sparsh team in the organization that anchors the whole program. We have created customer listening channels. I'll talk about rituals in a bit. We have created capabilities for us to be able to listen to the voice of customer through insights as well as through rituals that top teams as well as front-facing colleagues follow, and in order to get the right insights to move ahead in this journey. We've also ensured that there's not just a concept, but there's actually a role modeling to an execution journey here. So we have a Sparsh board institutionalized. Top 9 leaders, senior leaders of the organization are on the Sparsh board. It's a body that just discusses customers, their issues, what needs to be done to become best and better in customer experience. At the same time, we have 100+ Sparsh architects across the organization to prioritize CX. Every time they are thinking about their own roles and doing their own bit in this journey. Most importantly, as I've said before, sustenance through measurement. And we put in place NPS. We are granularly tracking complaints because that's an important area of customer voice. We are measuring promise across journeys, and also always having outside-in measurements coming in as well, telling us whether we are on the right path in the journey or not. As I said, it is a lot about the entire organization believing and committing to a cause like this. And hence, it was important in our mind to create a common language of Sparsh, of customer obsession. What you see on the screen on the left side are, it's just the mother behaviors, as we call it, as we take to all our colleagues. We contextualize it to roles. We have written out what star means to a front desk officer in a branch versus a phone banking agent versus a back office colleague. So what it means to listen to customers, what it means to raise the bar, and henceforth. And all of these behaviors we are institutionalizing through rituals in the organization so that there is an access way of working in the organization. And one of the examples that we put here is our branch morning huddle. We call it Pulsate. The morning huddle typically maybe about, how is the business going to be today, numbers being discussed. But what we very quickly realized, it's also those 10, 20 minutes before colleagues face customers. And hence it's important to start the day in a particular way, have learning bits there so that they know how to face customers, how to do best with consumers. And that's what we institutionalized here. There is content that directly gets played across TVs, across all our branches every morning 9 to 9:20, and we have a common huddle happening across the organization. As I said, it is about common belief getting set up. It is about an unbroken chain of service coming through for our customers. So starting from customer-facing colleagues to back office operations to product and design teams, and also the top team committing their time, their energy, prioritizing CX, and hence there's been a mass effort ongoing and will continue to happen because we've just started the journey. Will continue to happen so that we continue to prioritize CX and move ahead in the journey that we have started. An example of, from a customer lens, an example of what Sparsh aims to do, although you've seen many examples when Sami talked about from a digital perspective. Our Burgundy customers told us that knowing what is the status of any request that I gave is priority to me, very transparently. And giving a commitment of promise there is also very important to us. And hence, we've created now something called a 6R promise for our Burgundy customers. As you will have a Burgundy conversation in the later half of the day, Satish will talk about it as well. We made a large internal program to run it, and we've already moved to 96% of our requests for a select request pool to move to a 6R promise. And not just creating a promise, but actually transparently showing it on our app. And at the same time, compensating and giving a guarantee to customers if something doesn't happen within that time. This is something that is in CUG now and will be very soon going live to our customers. From a capability lens, once again, Balaji, Piyush, Avinash have all spoken. Siddhi is a capability that will deliver customer delight. Nudges, personalization is a capability that will deliver customer delight. We want to take our capability of hyper-personalization to the next level by investing in an architecture we're calling omni-channel, which is about connecting all channels and creating singular views for our customers, as well as internally for our employees. And the journey there has begun. It's a large tech and data architecture project that we have undertaken, and colleagues across the bank are working on it now. As we have gone on this journey, I mentioned earlier, NPS is something that we started just Q1 of this financial year, but we already see movement happening with more and more customers becoming promoters. Let me say here, we are far from where we want to be, but at the same time, the positive movement in NPS across some of the examples I give here tells us that, yes, we are in the right direction, but we need to do a lot more. And I think the idea of Sparsh is that as a concerted effort, we will be on this journey for the next 5 to 8 years, till the time it takes us to be the best, and create that multiplicative effect that Amitabh also talked about early on. Because after all, it needs to maximize the NPV of all our consumer relationships as a total for the organization. So this is what I had very briefly to talk to you about on Sparsh. Thank you very much.
Satpreet, so we have all our presenters for the first session here with us. So Amitabh is there, Samir is there, Avinash is there. I'll sort of get Balaji, are you here? I'll get Balaji also. So anybody has any questions from the first session, Piyush is also there and Satpreet also. So you can identify yourself and you can address the question to whom you want, and we can sort of take the questions. Yeah, Kunal, go ahead. If someone can give the mic to Kunal, please.
Yeah. Hi. So the question is to Balaji, particularly with respect to the hyper-personalized nudges. So there is a control tower wherein you mentioned that you assess the performance and the conversion. So if you can help how much it is effective with respect to the repeat cases and how much it is useful with respect to cross-sell and upsell.
Sorry, Kunal, I'll have to keep you on waiting. Balaji just coming in. So we will take your question once Balaji comes in. Adarsh, can you give the mic to Adarsh?
So I had a couple of questions. First one to Samir is on, we had a peer bank which started 811. A lot of, it's supposed to be liability acquisition. Now it seems that very little liabilities are there in these accounts, and now it's become an PL asset origination kind of engine. That's what, at least we can make sense of. So you showed decent balances in some of the digitally sourced accounts of non-Axis customers. So if you can just walk through differences, what you see in terms of, there are different channels, different ways people approach it. So for you, it seems a liability engine. For some banks, it's not. So if you can just talk about that.
Sure. So actually, instead of speaking about a specific peer, if you look at digital savings accounts, particularly originations, a large number of, including neobanks by the way, have taken this approach of zero balance, zero initial funding. What happens when you offer zero balance accounts is you get a lot of traffic, which is not necessarily looking to build a relationship with you. Maybe they are coming because you offered some book my show ticket or whatever else, right? What we've done is, as we said, we focused on quality. So if you want to open an account with us, you have to fund the account first. I will only open the account after you fund the account. And you will have to pay us a fee to start the relationship. What that does is it puts a bar on the incoming customer base. Second, our proposition to the customer is obviously around ease of opening the account, but it is also around other propositions. Like I said, we offer, and you will see many of these, we'll offer 5% off on online shopping and stuff like that. So we are getting customers who are looking to transact. Why will a customer open an account with us? Because he or she will then go and buy something online and so on and so forth. When people do transactions in an account, they keep balances, and the balance automatically deepens. So because we've kept a focus on quality and we are not running after opening X million accounts a month and so on and so forth, we've been able to get the kind of metrics that we spoke of. For us, by the way, Access 2.0, it is a liability engine, but also we are equally focused on generating every aspect of the balance sheet, right? So we are doing CASA acquisition, we are doing FD. By the way, FD is at real scale for us. Real scale. It is a very large. I mean, we are not disclosing right now, but it is very, very large. And similarly on loans and so on. So we are looking at all elements of the balance sheet, not just one or two.
I just have one more question for Amitabh. Maybe, I don't know if you take it later, but Amitabh, you showed some numbers on profitability. Part of those are, coming from within the bank. Part of it is coming from how good the environment is, margins and credit costs. So if you can just talk about sustainability of that, it will help.
So I think we did make the statement that our intention, we have achieved this number and our intention is to sustain it. Obviously, the environment which is there now will change, which would mean that there could be pressure on margins. It could mean that the credit costs will go up at some stage, and if nothing else, at least move towards the mean. As we keep saying, there are enough logs in the fire for us to compensate for some of those changes over a period of time, because we are doing a lot of things in the long run. And apart from all the transformation projects, I think we are emphasizing this multiplicative point that as these things start feeding into each other, they have a huge impact over a period of time. I think what people underestimate is that, well, at least my lesson in my life, and I've worked through it, is that people always overestimate the time it takes for, say, technology or analytics to deliver for you. But they always underestimate the impact. So you always think that it will come faster, but when it comes, it always gives you more, if you're patient enough to be there for that journey. So the way I see it is that we are putting all these optionalities in place, and obviously we'll continue to invest in it as we move forward. We know UPI-like change could come to account aggregator. We know that we can get, for example, Siddhi or the personalization right, or even Sparsh right. It could have a huge impact on us. And it's not just one thing we're working on. We're not banking on one, we're banking across. So we do believe that some of these optionalities, as they play out, it will easily compensate for some of the things will change in the environment over a period of time. So yes, this environment has helped us, but I'm of the firm view that there's enough happening on the side in Axis Bank which can support our journey and sustain it in terms of where we want it to be.
Rohan, you had a question? Table 8, please. Mike. Oh, yeah, sorry. Kunal, Balaji is here, so you can complete.
Balaji, you got the question, right?
Achha, Balaji knows it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll repeat the question. The question was on the personalization campaigns that we are doing. What is the business impact? See, there are several areas where we have rolled out personalization campaigns, credit card spends, welcome journeys of newly onboarded savings account customers, and credit card portfolio programs, and we have recently launched it in TDs. In the first 3 of them, depending on the campaign, we are seeing 10 to 20% increase in the activation rates, spend activation rates, and onboarding MDAB for the savings account customers, for which we have done personalization-based nudges. And in the portfolio, credit card portfolio program nudges as well, we are seeing some increments are in the 10 to 20% range.
And when we look at the upsell and the cross-sell out there, so obviously it would be more in terms of the repeat kind of nudges which would happen. But when we really look at it in terms of helping us in upsell and the cross-sell, how much is the effectiveness out there?
See, right now, we do want to, I want to give the example of the database programs I talked about. And, right now, when we started, it was at a different level. Right now, 60% of our lending in some of the businesses comes from database programs. We do believe for personalization as well, that's a metric we want to track in terms of what percentage we will reach. Right now, where we are is we are very closely tracking for the campaigns that we are doing. We have a very clear measurement process that we talked about in terms of control tower. And for every nudge we send, for the control population, which is non-personalized nudge, what is the business impact? And for the nudges that we are sending, what is the business impact? That's the number that I shared to you about. This year, we do have targets for delivering a certain volume of deposits in terms of absolute rupees crore and portfolio programs again in terms of exposure given away and lines taken away from personalization nudges that we will be pursuing this year.
Sure. And secondly, you highlighted in terms of the effectiveness of underwriting, say which was 1.5x of CIBIL or maybe the bureau score related. So I think other banks, they highlight like CIBIL is just a mere one part of it and one of the parameters. And we are at 1.5. So is it less effective compared to that of the other banks, or how do we read this?
See, when people say it's one of the parameters, that is true. So if you see in the slides that we put up, we also showed that we use bureau score along with our deposit data and sometimes partner data. So multiple elements of data go into the score that we built. See, here we are referring to a metric called Gini, which is Gini and KS are two metrics that are typically used to measure. It's a one single number that encapsulates the power of a scorecard, how well it's able to split risk. So on that metric, we are at the minimum 1.5x better than the bureau scorecards, and those are fairly good numbers. And again, when you say 1.5x, you'll have to look, we are talking about the difference in Gini, and it's a tough thing to achieve. CIBIL score in general has Gini somewhere, 30 to 40, so you can compute what the journeys are on these products, and these are difficult to achieve Genies in our view, and I haven't seen anyone else publish those numbers, in fact. So what they talk about is use multiple ones. Yes, we also do that. But it's a very specific metric we track. So every time we build a scorecard, actually we track this. What is the alternative generic one? Of course, we look at how our own scorecards are doing. We presented this because it's a generally available benchmark to everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this question is again for Balaji, sir. On your presentation in slide 4, we had given a comparison of Axis Bank vis-a-vis domestic private banks and global banks. And Axis was slightly in between the two range. So I wanted to understand, when we are comparing with global banks, where is it that we are lacking, and is there any specific efforts that we are taking at Axis Bank to reach to that level? And yeah.
See, we have actually spent some time talking to people, global benchmark peers. There are a couple of areas where we have done well, which is in terms of organizing the customer data and manufacturing of nudges. Where we believe, and I've showed that in the slide, where we need to get better at, relatively speaking, is in the multi-channel orchestration of those nudges, and as well as the how we different departments work together to deliver the fifth block that I had talked about over there. These are the two places when we discussed the international organizations have a much more embedded agile operating model. These banks like M-Bank that we talked about actually operate only in an agile operating model, and they do that across the board, not just for personalization, the way they operate. Those are similarly, Amazon, the way they operate is entirely in an agile squad. Those are some of the areas where we felt we need to get better, and those are tough things to achieve. Those will certainly happen, though, over a period of time. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And the second was with respect to the presentation, we have done technology initiatives on the customer-facing side as well as the employee-facing side. But if we were to look at tapping the ecosystem banking more from the corporate banking side or in the consumer banking side, what are the initiatives there, and what is the progress on that front?
Actually, the session that follows now, we'll talk about the small and medium businesses, Bharat, and after that there is a session called Connect and Grow, which is exclusively a session on ecosystems and partnership and how we are actually connecting to that. We wanted to lay the foundation because some of the work that we are doing here, there are use cases that are immediate, which we have shown you, And some of these are also contributing to the ecosystems and the partnerships that we are doing. There is a specific session in the afternoon on Project Neo. To put it in one line, what we have done in Retail Bank, which is the world's best mobile bank in terms of rating, we are replicating that for the wholesale bank. And we are, multiple MVPs are already live. And like Amitabh mentioned, some of these do take 24 to 36 months. But in the afternoon, where Rajiv and Vivek and others present, we will talk about Neo, which is essentially the same story getting replicated in the wholesale bank.
Sure, thanks.
I request you to please identify yourself and then ask the question.
Hi, Anish from UBS. So question for Samir and Avinash. So Samir, you mentioned in a slide that your the load times as well as the load times as well as the crash rates and ANR have come down. So just wanted to understand what sort of changes at the back end have been made which has resulted in this. That is one. And the second question would be, how has that affected your drop-off rates on those pages? Would you be able to quantify that?
Sure. So, and Avinash should add as well. So this is actually very core engineering work. So on the load time, as an example, by the way, one of the things we showed is on our mobile landing page, we show the balances, we show across products, we show all transactions, recent pays, and so on and so forth. We show hyper-personalized nudges. All of this is loading, when 11 million people are logging in, right? So it creates a lot of load on the systems. Many other banks actually have struggled to do this, and many apps have been down when they launched just because of this kind of aggregation of demands. So what the tech team has done is, one, we found a way to segregate each of these via APIs. And we found a way to do loading in a way that, let's say one service is not working, still the rest of it kind of continues to operate. So that is one thing they've done. Second thing they've done is that this API has been optimized very heavily so that the load time reduces quite dramatically. And as an example, we use some principles like, and these are very common, but lazy loading. So your balance comes first, but your banner may come after 2 seconds because you've not, by the way, scrolled in till then. So you don't even realize that it's not come. So there is stuff like that. On the ANR, actually a big reason for the ANR is that almost 60% of our mobile phones work on low memory. So the memory is less than, I think 2 GB. Would that be right? Yeah, 2 GB RAM, right? And a large number of our customers are on very old versions of the app. So people are on Lollipop and stuff like that, which Android itself is no longer supporting. So what we've had to do is that we had to figure out that our app works even on those mobile phones and those memories. So the tech team has gone device by device. We figured out which devices are the kind of the most big ones, and figured out if the app is crashing, why is that happening, and how do you kind of optimize this even for low GB and so on and so forth, and figured out ways to bring down the crash rates. And that's how, so this is very, very intense engineering work, and this is ongoing, by the way. We do this fortnight after fortnight after fortnight. Some 6-7 problem areas are identified and they get fixed, and incremental benefits come through.
So the second question for Avinash. So you mentioned tech investments have gone up by around 2.5x in the last 3 years. So just wanted to understand, does that help in the decline in load times or ANRs we are seeing? And the other question related to this was, so does this increase in tech investments include the expenses for additional headcounts, or is that exclusive of that?
So every investment that we have, obviously, in some shape and form will sort of contribute over here. What we have done to the mobility piece is not only, aside from everything which Samir spoke about, what we have also done is that we have actually invested in a complete automation testing of the entire mobile suite, right? It's not possible for us to essentially have a device farm over here. I mean, it's amazing when you look at the numbers, right? I mean, it runs into thousands in terms of the combination of Android, Chinese variants which are out there. So we have actually completely taken this to a very automated kind of a manner, where we basically sort of, bring up the image of the particular phone, and basis that, the testing essentially happens, so that it gives us an idea about the fact that even if it's Android 8 or below, what is the kind of a, response time that we actually need to be optimizing against. Investments have been done in that particular area, no doubt on that. Okay. If you think about it, there is a lot of investment which is essentially happening in purely, the growth itself. Okay, people run the bank, people speak about change the bank, but there is a massive amount of investment which is essentially happening in grow the bank. I mean, without focusing on, this entire transaction volumes which is essentially coming, say, from a UPI, or for that matter, when we are doing so well on the FD side, or when we are doing so well on the Leap side, there has to be a concurrent focus on grow. So effectively, if you look at our OPEX or CAPEX investments, right? I mean, the way to essentially look at it over there is that almost 30% of it is today grow itself. There is a 28% which is there on change, which sort of, works along with grow for us.
So on the question on investment, just to take that specific point, the investment on CAPEX and OPEX, which we showed, is exclusive. Does not include the headcount investment, which is separate from that. And the headcount investment, there are two things happening here. The strength of the team is going up. One of the big things we did was we asked this question: the tech team should not have people who do not know coding / who do not appreciate engineering, because there was a lot of tech team strength which was largely interfacing with vendors, creating business requirement documents, testing, etc. We've carved that team out as well. So I'm not even counting that, because that team now spends all its time in working with vendor partners, in working with internal functions, in creating requirement documents, and doing the testing. The tech team is really working on architecture, coding, engineering, because that's where we want to continue to increase both the talent density as well as the knowledge of the team. So even that mix has changed. And that is exclusive. That is not included in this investment numbers that we showed to you.
Yeah, hi. Just quickly, in terms of some of these large transformational tech projects, where would you see you are in terms of the expense journey? I mean, 70% done or halfway there, because there's one more large project of integration coming up as we merge. So,
I mean, if you take one slate that we had started about 2 years back of about 19 programs that we had identified, of which about 6 or 7 were deep tech programs, where you saw Siddhi, you saw some of the work that Samir showed. The answer, therefore, to your question is we are almost about between 2/3 to 3/4 there. 65 to 75% of that investments have gone in, and we are now starting to make sure adoption happens and the business benefits come through. This should not preclude us from taking new ones.
Absolutely.
So that we will continue to do. The bank is, in some sense, on a path in terms of making sure that some of the expense or cost to asset ratios that we have promised, we will continue to work towards that. But one slate of very deep tech projects, some of which were very fundamental in terms of infrastructure, extensible, architecture, making more modular architecture. I think we are on a very good, we are past 2/3 to 3/4 kind of a journey in terms of making those investments.
Thanks, Subrat.
Thanks.